Good morning, traders, and welcome to this week's weekly market analysis, Monday the 11th of March. This week, let's kick off our analysis with the Aussie US dollar. If you take a look at my chart here, you can see where I identified a converging pattern, markets converging in as such last week. And let me just change colors on that one. And this week, the trend basically continues. We were over here last week. We are moving closer towards that hot spot, which I have identified. And what we're really looking for, now remember last week I was looking for either to go to the top or to the bottom. It didn't really matter. It looks like it's heading towards the top one now. So what I will be looking for is, as we reach this zone, if I can see any signal that the market is trying to reverse in the way of a price action pattern, a reversal pattern, that is. So in other words, if I was to get a pattern over here that looks something along those lines, I'll get my inside candles or an engulfing candle or one of those types of reversing patterns, then that would be my signal to become a seller. But at the moment, we still need to get there. We're not there yet, so we're waiting to reach that region, and until then we basically do nothing. So that is our look at the Australian US dollar this week. If we move along, let's have a look at the Euro USD. Euro USD, we're still inside this sort of range which I've identified already. I've got my mark up here, so something very similar to the Aussie dollar, only with a different shape. What we're looking for is that the market to reach this region. It is approaching that region. If we get signals or any sign that the market is reversing, well, then that's the signal for us to become a seller in this particular market. So for the time being, we are close. We could easily get there. Let me just check how far away we are. We're about 120, 130 pips away, so that could easily happen in two to three candles, so it could develop for us this week. So keep an eye on that one. That is the Euro USD. Moving along and looking at the US yen. Now the US yen has got, I've identified this pattern here that the market is come to this support level on a couple of occasions and shot off twice. 3 times and shot off, and we are approaching it again for a third time. Let me just zoom in on my chart here. So what I will be looking for is, as the market, and we can see that it's already started to fall, if the market does in fact reach this area, what I'm particularly looking for, and if I try to show you with the correct colors, perhaps it'll be a red candle, something along those lines. It can have a wick or no wick, it doesn't really matter, but it's important that it sits on that support line and then immediately followed by a blue candle, and it can be an inside candle or maybe an engulfing candle, but in this particular way that I've drawn it, it's an inside candle, and then that would be my trigger to become a buyer, and I'll be buying off the support level with a reversal pattern confirming the market reversing on that support. All right, so this one, let me check how far away we are. That's about 300 pips from that region, so this could take a little bit more than a week, but just keep your eye on that one as well. That is the US yen for this morning. GBP USD, let's have a look at the cable. Now last week we saw that we were inside this range, but also we identified this congestion zone in here. Let's zoom in on this particular chart now. What's happened during the week, now the first thing is that top line never occurred, so I'll just delete it out. That congestion zone finally broke out, and if I redraw it properly, give me 1 second. If I try and catch the highs and the lows of the zone, puts me at there. We can see that this candle is in fact the first candle that has popped out of that region. Normally the shape of this candle is quite important. If it was a candle that looked very bullish with virtually no wick, let's say a candle like that, that is a strong signal that you can buy straight after that candle. Now this one, however, has got a bit of a wick here, so it's not quite what I was looking for. Nevertheless, it is outside of the of this region, and as I'm recording this, we can see the next candle has just begun right now, right over there. Let me zoom out a little bit. Alright, what I want to do on this chart is I'm just going to draw a line up there, and I'm just going to put a watch mark to see what happens if the market comes up towards this region. Okay, for right now I'm not going to do anything. That signal is not strong enough for me to straight out become a buyer. What could happen, let me just delete this one out. What could happen is if we push up a little bit and then it pulls back and it gives me a reversal pattern there, well then I would be more inclined to become a buyer right then after my reversal confirmation as I seek a push towards that top line. Okay, so keep that in mind. Let me just put a mark on my chart so when I look at this next, I'll remember what I was thinking. So put a mark there. I'm just going to put a little line just to indicate sort of what I'm looking for. Okay, so I'm looking to see if the market pushes up, comes back, shows me reversal, and then kicks on. If I get that push up and then a dip down with confirmation, I'm happy to become a buyer in this particular market. If I don't and it just continues to push up, well then I'm looking for a trade off the top side when it comes back down. All right, remember, we're not trying to predict what the market is going to do because nobody knows what it's going to do next. All we're trying to do is identify opportunities that have the highest probability for us to interact with, and that's all we're really trying to do. All right, okay, let's move on and have a look at oil. All right, oil continues to stay inside this region, and on that top parameter and this bottom parameter, we're still very roughly in the middle. So it's really a market that I'm not really doing anything. What I will do though is I'll just put a marker on each side of the parameters, and what I'm looking for is if the market goes towards that side or this side, then I'm interested in becoming a seller or a buyer if we do reach those regions. All right, so for now I'll just leave it as it is. No action on WTI this week. Final one for the week is gold, and this one, give me one moment, let me just zoom out one more. Okay, no. Okay, this one, I had marked out a congestion zone over here last week. If you go back and watch that video, you'll see I had marked out sort of an area here that the market was sort of kind of congesting. Now, we kicked out with this candle here, and this is what I was saying before. Look at the shape of that candle. It's still not the perfect bullish candle, but it was a signal that was strong enough that basically produced a big kick out of the congestion and then basically continued on to rally up. Now, at the moment, the only thing that I can see for us on this particular market is trying to trade a pullback in the direction of a new emerging or a continuation of the trend. In other words, it's pulled up. Let's see if it pulls back, gives us some kind of sign that it's going to reverse and reverse back in direction of the trend as such. All right, and that's why I've got my little yellow zone just marked in there. That's what it's basically reminded me of. I'll just add a couple of little lines just to when I come back so that I remember what I'm looking for. All right, so that pretty much wraps up for this morning. That's our brief weekly analysis of the majors, the commodities, and of course gold as well. Don't forget, this week there is a little bit of data, not as much as last week. I believe we have unemployment numbers for the UK, that's tomorrow. Unemployment numbers also for the US, and retail sales for the US on Thursday. All right, though the key highlights for the week. That pretty much wraps up for today, guys. As always, please take care. If you do have any questions, please feel free to contact us. And I'll speak to you next week for our weekly market analysis. Bye for now.